Hey, welcome to Between the Lines. We're back on Thursday night at 7 o'clock. Here we are with a live show today. And we're going to talk about important stuff today. We're going to talk about victims. We're going to talk about abuse. We're going to talk about the Family Justice Center, which is located in Clinton, all the good work they do, maybe how you can help, maybe some other things. But you need to know that it's there and it's available to you or anyone you know or love. Or even if you don't love them and they need something, you need to get that done. So welcome, Melissa. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Melissa has been, how long have you been there, Melissa?
Well, grand opening was July 1.
Oh, so it's a brand new center.
Brand new.
See, they got, what was the other? There's another one down there, Family.
Well,
down by Farley's office. What is that in Fox's?
Well, we were housed in the DA's office as a concept. We became a reality July 1.
Maybe there's a children's thing.
Oh, there is a child advocacy center.
That's a big center.
Yes.
There's a lot of names and a lot of centers. It's hard for me and names to get after. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
But we're going to talk first about you.
Okay.
You're from California, and that always interests people here because we stereotype Californians. Yeah. So you're from Southern California. Yes. You grew up in the valley?
Well, I grew up coastal, and then
by the water.
Yeah.
How far?
Huntington Beach. My grandparents' house was 3 miles away.
How far from Venice Beach?
30 miles, 3 hours. So it depends on how you're getting there.
Yeah. Venice Beach I was there in the 70s, and I'm telling you, it's just a different world.
It is a different world.
Is it still a different world?
It's still a different world.
Key West is a different world. I mean, there's different places to go that are fun, but Venice was fun in those days, but nobody cared about anything. That wasn't a real responsible culture.
No. Yeah, there's a lot of characters there.
So you grow up in Huntington Beach, which is south of L.A.?
Yes.
I mean, LA's.
I like that I had to.
Yeah, that was good.
Geographically.
Mm-hmm. That's what I do. You're a visual person. That's the history part of it. So you grow up there, and you're there your whole childhood. Mm-hmm. Okay. Parents.
Dad was born and raised there. My mom was.
Vocations.
So my dad worked for McDonnell Douglas.
I was going to say it was going to be a major industry like that because of them and. There's 4 or 5 of them out there that have major employment contracts, especially in the aircraft industry and other things. So McDonnell Douglas, that makes sense. Big company.
Yep.
And a lot of work, because I work for a company that is headquartered in the north, more Tetra Tech, but a lot of in the Silicon Valley more than the other areas. Yeah. So you grow up, you go to high school. Mm-hmm. Most people do. You went to high school. You went to college at...
Cal State Fullerton.
This is how far from Huntington Beach?
20 miles.
So let's talk about that for a second. Yeah. Everybody wants to get away, especially California. So you went 20 miles, free. Mm-hmm. Was it free?
No, it was not free.
I thought college was free.
It is not. I'm still paying for it, and I will until I die. So it's just fun. Fun fact.
Okay, so you went to Fullerton. You majored in history.
History.
Okay, and I like history. I got a degree in history too. My undergraduates were in political science and psychology, but I went on and went back and got a history degree. I mean, I had enough hours anyway, but I formalized it. But I love history, American history especially. Sounds like that was your focus.
Weirdly, I liked everything. I liked American history, but it's not my favorite. And then when I started teaching it, I grew to love it.
Okay, so
classes just for fun.
What was your favorite when you were a sophomore? You know, that kind of.
I mean, there's very little I didn't like.
See, too encompassing.
I liked everything. I mean,
the East is too complicated. Nobody studies the East.
See, well, and that was one of those required classes where I had to take Chinese history, and there's A, B, and C. I took B, loved it so much. I took
How do you do Chinese history in a semester?
You don't. You take 3 of them, and then you still don't learn it all. You read for fun. But.
Well, and we had a friend of mine. We had a fundraiser last week for Congressman Flashman, and a pilot named Ashley Nicholas who flew over the UT game in a big transport airplane with the only woman pilot, great lady. And she came in and talked about it because she'd been in the active service and retired just a week before. And she was telling, it's a friend of ours, and she was telling the whole, all the elected officials and businessmen and whatnot. She was telling men, women, were telling us about Afghanistan, the importance of the bridge. And I mean, I've probably 70 hours of history, and I still don't understand that section of the world, the Middle East. It's just too complicated for me. I mean, I understand the basics, of course, but not that much. Okay, so you go on with history, you get it done, you become a teacher. Because with history degrees, there's not much else we can do.
No.
Most want to be historians, librarians, or something.
Actually, I loved the idea of being a historian, and then also wanted to teach community college, but that was at the time when everyone was being laid off. There was no hiring, so I went back to teach high school, and then did student teaching in middle school and ended up loving it, and that's what.
How long were you a teacher?
I'd say 5 years. I never got a contract, which is why, oddly, I'm now doing this line of work. Is I came here and was going to get the license to teach here, and in the meantime, thought, well, I'll be a CASA volunteer, and then loved volunteering so much that when a position opened up, I applied, and then next thing you know, teaching is just kind of backburnered and.
Before we get to all of the good
Yeah.
stuff you're doing, I want you to define politics in California for our people out here. Help us understand. It's not all liberals,
No.
and but there's enough for they win the elections. And I'm not saying liberals are good and conservatives are bad or anything. I'm just saying California, people don't understand that. Everybody thinks California is San Francisco, right? I mean, that's the way East Coast people, if it falls in the ocean, it'll be okay, right? But I mean, really, California's complicated.
It's very complicated. It's very diverse. I grew up in Orange County, which is extremely, I would say, very conservative. And
That's where all the
I
money
can't
is.
begin to tell you, I don't know how to describe it, but it's very diverse, and what someone thinks it is not what it is. And I would
And when
say,
you go to areas like Sacramento and you get out further out or in between, San Diego's fairly conservative. I mean, you've got different areas, depends on the culture and everything, but I try to convince people that it's a good state. I didn't spend a lot of time there, but I traveled there a lot, and I found it to be what's the word? It's kind of like the Rocky Mountains to the Cumberland Mountains. Smoky Mountains are beautiful. But the Rocky Mountains are awesome. I mean, when you fly into Denver and you get off the airport and you look up and you say, what is that? And it's sky. I mean, it's amazing. And California's that same feeling to me. I mean, it's an amazing culture, you know. And being a Catholic and know a lot about history and the travels and the establishments of San Francisco and San Jose, you know, everything's named after a saint, right?
Yep.
I mean, Los Angeles, the Angels, and the history of the Hispanic missions there and stuff. It's interesting. And then how it evolves. But Northern California is beautiful. I mean, it's just a different look. It's mountains.
Yeah,
it's got,
very different.
you know, and the people there are very, the wineries and the hills, and San Francisco's a beautiful town. And I just like it. But I think people need to understand that it's not all one liberal set. You know, it's not one big pool. Like New York, you have to get pretty far out of the city to get into more economically conservative people. I would say Los Angeles as a whole is fairly moderate to liberal on social issues, but economically they can be very conservative.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you were talking about Venice Beach, I think each area has its own little enclaves of different mindsets and different cultures based on who's settled there and kind of what industry is there, and I think it is incredibly diverse. So I couldn't begin to identify it as one thing or another, other than I think, Los Angeles and bigger cities tend to be slightly
Has
more
the politics
liberal.
of California changed the culture of California, do you think, in the last 30 years? Has it been... I mean, I remember when I was a child, it was Whiskey A Go-Go and the Strip and Morrison and all of the things that were happening on the coast. It was kind of an exciting time. I mean, it really dates me. But, I mean, you know, the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, I was a teenager, and I can remember all of that. But, you know, there's a lot of industry in California, too, especially in the aircraft and other things, et cetera, et cetera. But it's interesting. But I just wanted to touch base on that here. So you end up teaching school 5 years, you come to Anderson County? Knox County?
Yes, Anderson County.
No stops, okay.
Straight to Oak Ridge. Bought a
That's
house
an
on
interesting
West
jump.
Outer.
Well,
It is.
That's not too odd, because Oak Ridge has a pretty diverse culture too.
Yeah, we were excited about Oak Ridge. We were excited about schools, and I kind of thought, based on the lab and things like that, there'd be kind of a
More to do.
Yeah, more to do. That sounds. And there is.
Restaurants open past 8, things like that.
Are they? Some are.
Not anymore. COVID's kind of closed
yeah.
everybody down. I mean, you can't get a.
Yeah, there was some culture shock, but not much.
Yeah.
Well, and I would come every summer. My ex-in-laws were in Tellico Plains, so this was not a surprise to me. We visited every summer.
Tellico Plains is kind of a nice area. I got a lot of friends that live out there.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
but
quiet and really
and
beautiful.
I think that's the advantage of Oak Ridge. But historians are settled people anyway, aren't we? I mean, people that study history, we like to study history. Like you love the History Channel, right?
I do.
I love the History Channel too. That's a great channel.
Yep.
I love it. So you get into all of that. So you go in, you come, you become a CASA volunteer. What's your first job in Anderson County?
Recruitment and training coordinator. And so it was me teaching,
What do you recruit?
but adults, volunteers.
Okay.
So,
I got you.
CASA is court-appointed special
I got you.
advocates.
Sure, yes.
And so we're getting those volunteers ready to advocate on behalf of kids in court.
Yeah, and what framework was that? Was that like 7 or 8 years ago?
Let's see, it was 2015.
Okay, so it was 2015. That's not that long ago, right?
No, huh?
Okay. All right, so you get it all done, you're in that job, but people recognize your talent immediately, and so you move up, or move sideways. So I'm going to make one job more important than the other, but then you went to work for the district attorney's office?
Well, I worked for the YWCA, and so I love child advocacy. I thought it was really important, but then was also a foster parent at that time, and so you kind of bring the emotions of foster parenting with also working every day in juvenile court, and it's a lot to kind of deal with on a daily basis. And so I thought, I think I would like to advocate for children at home and move on to adults.
Did you actually go to juvenile court?
Yes.
Well, that's a different world.
Yeah.
That's a different, and it's changed so much over the last 15 years. And, you know, I mean, the issues of substance abuse and collateral issues, what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of places to go.
Yep.
All right, so then you move and you get out of that, and that was within the DA's office, correct?
So the YWCA job was separate through the YWCA
That's correct.
Knoxville.
And you offer programs. See, one of the problems that's happened in the past in the justice system is your programs are very intensive. And attorneys will try to get lesser, like, you know, smaller programs, shorter length, domestic violence. I remember we had an option here, but the YWCA was 45 weeks.
Well,
And you could get a 12-week program over here. Well, nobody's going to want their client to go 45 weeks. That was a problem in the old days.
Well, what I did for the Y was just court advocacy. So if there was a victim who was working with the prosecution, then they would introduce me and say, hey, there's a domestic case. She works for the Y. She can help you. And I would really just kind of safety plan, help with orders of protection.
And it's needed. Oh, it's so needed. We were talking earlier before the show went on about some homicides that have grown out of that and other things. It's a bad problem. I'd say it's worse today than it was 10 years ago. Would you agree with that?
And I would say nationally, that is 100% the statistic, especially with COVID, is that DV cases have skyrocketed, and they are intensifying in what people are seeing, and that's the same with child abuse.
They don't
cases.
have the normal outlets for the aggression and stuff.
Yeah, and you're not getting away from each other while he or she is at work, whoever the abuser is.
Makes you wonder why they should be in the same house anyway, right? I mean, that happens. That's true.
Yeah, it's hard to get away.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, because you moved from there to the DA's office and became a witness coordinator, which I'm familiar with. And then this idea came about. We got about 60 seconds and we're going to take a break. So tell me, who came up with the idea of the Family Justice Center in Anderson County?
Okay, in Anderson County, the District Attorney General, Dave Clark.
Okay.
This was his idea. He thought we could use this. It not only helps victims, but it helps with prosecution rates. And so it was an idea. We write this grant, and it's funded to hire somebody who just investigates the problem and then starts working on partnerships. And that's kind of, it was just an idea that we were going to move forward if there was a problem.
And here comes the key question for you, and then we'll break.
Okay.
How long's the grant?
It depends on which one we're talking about. So
it's multiple grants to fund the operation?
There are 3 that we have. 2 fund the operation. 1 was just additional cool things.
Okay.
And that's so much info.
Let's take a break, and we'll come back and talk about the day-to-day workings of the Family Justice Center.
Okay.
Always ready, always there. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information, like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form, cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. Report the call to our law enforcement arm, the Office of the Inspector General, at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see. DEPR.
Mental illness doesn't show up on a scale.
Bipolar?
Sorting out a mental health concern takes professional diagnosis and treatment.
Anxiety. I thought so.
If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Welcome back, and we're getting ready to start talking more about the Family Justice Center, which is located in downtown Clinton.
It's actually in Oak Ridge.
How am I doing, folks? See, that's the way I keep up with these issues in advance. I keep seeing the Child Justice Center down there, that white building.
Yeah.
I keep thinking that. Okay, where's the Family Justice Center located in Oak Ridge?
301 Broadway. So if you know where Jackson Square is,
Very
or
well.
you've seen any of the coverage of the new mural, we are in that mural building. So it's
I've seen that mural. Where is that
yeah.
mural at?
It is on
Oh,
the,
you're in the old library.
Yep.
See, it's old time.
and that's what I've heard. Old library.
Old library. That's a nice building, though. It was beautiful.
It's
when
great.
When was it built? Like 60s or 70s?
I'm going to say 60s. It's owned by ORNL Federal Credit Union. And when they knew I was looking for a space, I talked too much about this, and several people brought it up to the
So
president.
she's basically, for those who don't understand, she's catty corner from right on the road where Dean's Restaurant and everything is, and you just go across the street, and right there before you get to the tennis courts, you have the Family Justice Center. Now I've got a beautiful mural.
Thanks.
Who painted the mural? You did?
No, I did
Brush
not.
it?
Megan Lingerfelt. And it was commissioned by ORNL Federal Credit Union.
Did she go to Oak Ridge?
I think she's a transplant, but she also did the Melton Lake mural that is on the row house.
Okay, I got it. All right, so here we go. So they open up. General Clark gets out, gets a good idea, starts applying for grants. They put out applications, and you become, obviously, it was obvious probably from the start, but you become the ideal person to do that
Well, I
job.
like the way you're,
I'm
that
thinking,
sounds
right.
great.
Well, obviously
That's
it's
how that
working, right? So when did you go in? Just the summer? You started this summer?
Okay, so the grant was funded July 1 of
Okay.
2019. And so the idea of the grant was, let's investigate a problem, and if there's a problem, let's begin solving it by co-locating. So a Family Justice Center is a one-stop shop, essentially, for a victim of domestic violence, elder abuse, sexual
Slow down.
assault.
When did it open in 19?
Yes.
Okay, you've been there since 19?
So the idea began in 2019, and I was hired specifically to make whatever the grant is asking us
So
to do
you started
happen.
on the payroll in 19?
Yes.
Okay, so you've been there since the formation. I got it.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the idea is, if you're serving these victims of these types of crimes,
Let's walk people through it.
okay, and so the victimizations are domestic violence.
Okay, let's do that. Most
Okay.
common?
Most common.
Okay.
Well,
So you go out.
not most common, what we serve the most. So elder
Okay.
abuse is the number one kind of crime happening.
I'm
but-
not even going to bring Sabre up. I'm going to leave it completely alone.
Okay.
Okay. I guess bossing me around wouldn't qualify for that, would it? No.
I mean, I
don't.
can slide you a card if you need it for later, but.
Well, we both know my wife. You can. She's great. You would.
Yeah.
Everybody loves her. So anyway, we're going on. So anyway, elderly abuse does happen a lot.
Yes.
But domestic abuse, having been in the system, it's manipulated by people. Let's just be honest. It's manipulated, and that throws shade on the real victims and other people.
I mean, it can be, for sure.
Well, I mean, the whole 12-hour rule, and I mean, my whole problem is I've seen friends on both sides of the gender, right, who have taken advantage of, they shoved me, they hit me with a pen. You take a pen, hit in the head, call the police, you got a bruise, okay, we're taking you in. That's what the statute says we have to. Okay. Now, I understand that's a minority of the situation, a vast minority, but it gives the whole idea of, is domestic violence or domestic assault, how many victims are really victims that need help beyond that week?
Yeah, and I think because that is something that is considered to be common, even though it is not, that is why a lot of
Okay.
people don't want to come forward. Because I do think you absolutely can manipulate the system. I've seen that with orders of protection. I've seen that when, calling in DCS on parents because you're upset with them. And so there's all kinds of ways to manipulate. But I do think that it's happening a lot. It's not just physical, it's the emotional or financial. There's lots of different types of domestic violence, but and I think a lot of it goes unreported or underreported.
Oh, sure.
And like you said, it can be male or female.
And there's two main reasons, in my opinion. I have a background in this, but two main reasons. You're the expert that people unreported. And I think the main issue is fear. But the second issue, almost equally important, is financial concerns.
Oh, 100%.
You agree with me? Those are the two big issues.
I think those are really big.
I got a good grade, guys.
Yeah.
So anyway, teacher and all. So anyway, those two things, I mean, she's got 2 children. She can't, we're doing we're studying homelessness in some different situations around the United States right now for different reasons, and it's just a lot of people on the street because they break up and they can't support, and it's temporary usually. But let's talk about the domestic violence. So
Okay.
John Doe slaps Jane Doe. That's legitimate. You don't slap people. Red face. She calls the police. Probably because she's afraid. Once again, these genders go both ways.
Absolutely.
But the majority of cases are of physical dominance, and you hit the woman. She goes in. Jane Doe calls. Now here comes the second criteria. Jane Doe. Here we see this a lot. Jane Doe, and please, I'm going to get onto the violence. I'm just trying to set the situation up.
Okay.
How many orders of protection are never even looked at from court? No contact clauses. Because Jane Doe's over it the next day. Oh, Bob didn't mean to do it, blah, blah, blah. How do you handle situations like that?
So the way that we operate is we are victim-centered and we let the victim guide the process. So you come in, you tell us what's happening, we present options, and then, give the merits for why you should or shouldn't do something. But it's victim-driven because we've discovered, that if you are telling someone what to do, one, you're kind of repeating that cycle sort of violence. I mean, I know it's not quite the same, but if someone at home is just controlling. Yes, controlling. We don't want anyone to feel like we're telling them what to do. And if you're used to that,
you're trying to empower them.
Thank you. Empower, yes. And so it's victim driven. Because when you push it and then you expect them to show
Now,
up in
that's a
court,
real
they're not
issue.
going to show up at court, or
That's
they're
right.
not going to follow through.
And they don't want to face that person. I think they
Yeah,
would go.
it's terrifying.
I think depositions work better in certain situations, but you have a right to the accuser, and see your accused and stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Are the majority of domestic violence cases? Let me go back because I'm kind of getting interested in certain elements. So you build the center. Let's stay on. You got to keep me on this.
Okay.
So you stay on. You build the center. You get it open this summer. So you spent 2 years preparing for this. COVID slowed you down, no doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
So you can't do all the things you want to do. So I'm not sure why COVID protocols would trump a victim's needs, but that's me. I say that about every issue.
Yeah, and the way that we function is we were required to open July 1, and we were on track for that. They don't want you opening any sooner, so you follow kind of the timeline of
You
the
have
grant.
to. That's the money.
And so when we opened, I said we will stay open. I don't think we're first responders in the sense of first responders, but I do think that we are kind of a last line for some people, and so we want to make sure that they get what they need.
When did you throw the full force between 19 and 21? Were you doing any work?
Oh, absolutely. And so a lot of this was just me getting to know what the problem is. So I would ride along with law enforcement. I would spend the day in court. I would go to mental health facilities. I would talk to victims. We would do focus groups. It was just a lot of gathering of information.
Where were you working out of?
The DA's office.
Okay.
I was in the conference room.
And this was actually, okay, I got you.
Yeah,
So
and-
you were actually providing services.
Well, we weren't, if somebody called me, and the longer that I did this work, the more frequently I would get calls. I'd get a call from the sheriff's department, hey, we're out on a scene and we don't really know what to do. Well, I will absolutely come out there, or I will connect you to all the different people who can help this
So
person.
not to reduce the vast importance of this, but kind of like working out of your home, and now you're out in the business world and you got an office and a setup. So now the grant's taking place, you started the services. Were all the grants funded on the 19th, or have they been funded along the way?
So we were funded by the Office of Criminal Justice Programs for a justice assistance grant, and that was the one that the DA's office was awarded.
Okay.
Started in July 1 of 2019, and that expires in June 30th of 2022. And that funded me and some of our money to kind of get the program started.
Okay.
And then while working through that with that grant, we applied for a Victims of Crime Act funding grant.
Okay.
Same entity is paying
Burn
that funding.
grants, most of these?
Well, this grant is it's through the Office of Criminal Justice Programs, like a separate type of grant.
Okay.
So the Victims of Crime grant is cool because it's not taxpayer funded. It is perpetrator funded. It's through penalties and fines that money goes into, and then that pays for
That's
these
that
services.
grant.
That
There's
grant.
other grants that are taxpayer funded, federal grants.
Yes, but we are not utilizing. That's the VOCA funding is separate.
What's your annual budget for this coming year? What do you budget?
So with a
Just general.
staff.
You have 3 people?
Yes.
Okay.
So I am the director. We have a navigator who knows all of the
A navigator.
partners. That's their
That's
name.
a fancy word.
And that is because they are navigating a complicated system. And so.
But what does that mean?
So it means that if you are a victim and you come in and you say, I'm a victim of domestic violence.
I got you.
I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. She listens to the story and
classified.
essentially presents a menu of options. And so the way that it works is
Steer them.
if you are a victim and they tell you, you have to, you come in and it's really hard to seek help that first time, right? So you come in and then I say, well, great, now I need you to go talk to someone at Legal Aid and scoot you out the door, and then you have to call or show up to Legal Aid, or then after Legal Aid you have to go to the Y. That makes it really hard on a victim
So what
to
does the
do all that
navigator
talk.
do? Navigator can
So
tell them where
now-
to go.
Well, now everyone's in one building. So what I had done this whole time
So
where
now
we
let's
weren't
go down
open
the hall
is,
and turn left.
and it's not even that, they come to you. So you come into a den. I mean, it looks like a cozy living room. We have a beach den and we have a mountain den, and you just go into that living
Is this for
room.
children or adults?
It's adults.
Okay.
And it's just,
But I'm going to do better in my beach den if I like the ocean.
I mean, it's just,
But if I'm a hiker, I may be better in the other den.
it's really a matter of what is appealing to you and looks comfortable. But honestly,
seems
we
simple.
just kind of themed them just to make them, I don't know.
What if I said that sounds very Californian? Would that, did you come up with
I
that?
would say that the den theming did not come from me.
Okay. I didn't say from you, I just said.
Yeah, a non-Californian came up with that
Okay.
idea.
That's
and
not bad.
really, it was somebody said, I
You have a
all
lot of
these
space in
great
that building.
things.
You have a lot of space in that building.
And we don't use the whole thing. We're on the top floor on the left side.
I was going to say.
So,
I used to play chess tournaments there when I was 12, 13 years old, I remember.
oh,
And I don't think I ever won a match.
Oh, that's my
Just
next
saying.
question
So
was,
anyway,
how
we
are
got
you?
another minute and we're going to break. So the funding is a couple $100,000 a year?
I'd say yes. Under
and that-
3.
Huh?
Under 3.
Under 3. And that grant, those grants simultaneous or some of them run in and out?
Yes. So when JAG runs out, there's an overlap with our VOCA, and then the VOCA grants go until 2024, and those are normally continually funded. Every FJC that's been open since
Yeah, that's true.
2003, they continue to fund those positions.
So when we come back, I want to know, if you had 200 more thousand, what would you do with it?
Oh,
Well,
okay.
you got an answer for that,
I
don't
think
you?
I might have some answers.
Let's take a break, Brad. We'll be back.
One day, you went to your secret hiding place, and instead of what you came for, you found this. What would you do? The truth is, all drug use comes with risk. Before drugs take their toll on you and your family, know that there is help. You can quit. If you or someone you love is struggling with drug use, call 1-800-662-HELP for 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, or go to samhsa.gov/know-the-risks.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This is my husband, Alex Hussey. Alex was about 2 weeks away from coming home.
I was playing man in foot patrol, and I stopped on the bomb. Lost my legs and my left hand in an explosion.
And he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
There are so many mountains to climb, and we do it together.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories great and small.
To watch Alex take on this mountain, that's what this is all about.
DAV provides a lifetime of support to veterans of every generation, helping more than 1 million veterans each year.
Alex has conquered this mountain. That's something he won't forget.
With the right support, there are no limits.
Look at that smile! You did it!
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.
This has meant so much.
Thank you, DAV.
Alex Hussey, thank you for your service. Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Welcome back to Between the Lines. So far, Melissa's stealing the show. I haven't had much of a role here. We'd like to thank Judge Roger Miller, who actually participates in all this, the Sessions Judge in Oak Ridge for his sponsorship, and Brian Hunt as well. Those two have helped us a lot this week. We're going to have a great month. We've gotten to where the Family Justice Center is located, a little bit about what it does, its staffing. Now we're going to talk about where you see it going a little bit, just a little bit. Where's it going?
Right now, our hope is to just continue to get new partner agencies in. So we have 24 partners. We have 5 who are kind of there Monday through Friday, and those are the ones we need most days of the week. So we have an advocate Monday through Friday on site. We have someone from the Sheriff's Department Monday through Thursday. All of our law enforcement agencies are available.
Now, who would come from Barker's office, Sheriff Barker?
Detective Sharon Baird. She comes down every morning, and she comes for anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours.
And her purpose?
She will go over any questions we have, any cases that we maybe need assistance with clients or with us.
Do you find the law enforcement is nervous for them? Do you?
For our clients, it kind of is case by case.
Yeah.
But I would say it's been great because.
Okay.
Law enforcement has been really good to us as far as
they do a great job.
Getting all of our victims information about what we do and then directing them to us.
I don't know this officer. I'm just saying that in general, law enforcement.
She is lovely and very helpful.
I can't wait to get to Safe Baby Court. That's been a talk for weeks on the campaign trail. But anyway, so YWCA, Knoxville, and then, now tell me about. You said you branched out because it was always domestic violence kind of a situation, or elderly. You said elderly abuse. Do elderly people really turn themselves? Do they really come to you?
We have had 3 elder abuse cases.
Okay.
We get a lot of phone calls about it.
Right.
That's a tricky one in the same way as everything is very complicated and is varies case by case. I think elder abuse cases are harder for someone to come forward because, just like with domestic violence, there's a lot of factors, but maybe you are having a very difficult issue with your daughter, but you are really close to your grandchildren, and because of those fears of losing them, or the shame that comes with admitting that a loved one is taking your money or doing something harmful to you, like you don't want to come
theft
forward.
would be an abuse.
Yes.
It's not all physical.
It's a lot of financial abuse. So that's what we see the most of,
sure.
and that's what people come forward for often, and a lot of money leaves Anderson County because of elder abuse.
Some of these seniors have hundreds of thousands of dollars in their checking account, and they come in and abuse that stuff, and they know. And when there's multiple siblings, it gets worse sometimes. Not siblings, but would that be right? Children.
Children,
siblings, children. We're going to get worse, and it just gets really bad. And Oak Ridge the whole country's aging, but Oak Ridge is certainly aging because it was. 1930 was a cornfield, right? So the last 70 years.
Well, population-wise, we have a higher demographic. So Tennessee has a higher percentage of seniors than the rest of the nation, and then also Anderson County has an even higher number than the national average.
My father was part of the Manhattan Project, and he said when they came here in 1945 and 46, they spent 6 months to a year. He was a chemical engineer, but he said trying to get a funeral home to locate here.
Oh, interesting.
Nobody died. They were all young.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
there was like 2% of the population was over 65.
Yeah, very
It's
different.
kind of interesting. It is
It's
very
changed
different
a lot,
world,
yeah.
man. It's a different world. Tell me about the Sexual Assault Center, because I would think that would be overwhelming number of people, depending on what that classifies as.
Yeah, well, and you can come, so we are partnered with the Sexual Assault Center of East Tennessee, so they will have an advocate one day a week with us, and then we have a sexual assault response team that's being formed. And so if you are a victim, you can come in and you can be connected to resources. And that's really what we do. We are just connecting someone to the appropriate resources in one spot. So if they come in and they just want a safety plan so that this doesn't happen again, if they want to file a police report, if they want to talk to a sane nurse for a sexual assault, kit, then we can coordinate together at the FJC with the Sexual Assault Center.
You said sane nurse.
A sane nurse, yeah. And so the Sexual Assault Center
Tell me
of
what
East
that means, a
Tennessee
sane nurse.
has a nurse and
Is that another acronym?
a sexual assault nurse examiner.
I wanted to
is
make
sane.
sure you didn't mean crazy, like a sane nurse.
And I did have a minute of, I'm not sure I'm going to get this right.
That's okay, I got it. It's a specialized nurse.
Yeah, specialized nurse. And they do the whole process. They even do that police report so that it's one person hearing that story versus if you've just been, sexually assaulted, having an officer come in that kind of moment when you're maybe having an exam or going through something, they want to just kind of make that less traumatic.
Yeah.
So it's all done with
Do
one
you
person.
work with hospitals?
We do, and the way that this is working is we've given, the emergency room resource cards and tried to do trainings to explain this is what domestic violence looks like, this is maybe how it would present. They also get that training kind of already when their nurses come on.
Because it's not always beating somebody
Yeah.
sometimes it's less is a bad word, a different type of violence, a different type of thing.
Yeah, or even what to look for. Like if you come in with your partner and again, domestic violence happens both ways, but I'd say 85% women are the victims. If the man is answering every question for the female, that might be something to it may be potentially an indicator. If your explanation for why something happened is unclear or vague, that's, or if it's really well thought out without asking.
Well,
these are things that maybe you're just, it doesn't mean it's something, but it's a
signal,
flag. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you do it long enough, you see it in people. I mean, you got to, in my work, I do a lot of polling and surveying around the country, and basically, you get used to reading the dots, and when you see somebody, you can tell when something's off or not right. It may be something you're like, right, they may be nervous, could be something different.
Yeah.
What is Omni?
Omni Community Health, I actually could not tell you what Omni stands for, but they do mental health services. They do Health Connect for therapeutic type things. We are going to work with them with their interns so that we can have free therapy services on site. And then we can connect with them off-site for other things. Because anything that you do at the Family Justice Center is free and confidential. We can't charge for any of the services that we provide. So if you're going to get something at the FJC, it's going to be free. And if there's something you need that we can't provide, if there was a service you really needed but you didn't have insurance, well then Holly or I can actually work with that client to help them get insured in the appropriate way so that they can get those services.
That's the kind of stuff people need to know.
And this is why, so anything a victim needs, they can come here for. If you have everything set up but you don't have a job and you don't know where to begin and you've never written a resume, well, we partnered with Rhone State, so we have someone come out and they help write that resume. We can help, get someone signed up for classes. We can help connect to jobs. So what we've tried to do is anything you might need to escape a situation and start fresh, we are working to it's either provided or it's in the works. And that's kind of that big goal. What would you want to do moving forward would be make sure that we've covered all the bases so that someone really could move on to like a safer space.
In the grant, what did you say your service area was?
It is explicitly victim services for domestic violence, elder abuse, sexual assault. And I always say to some degree child abuse because there's always going to be a component where maybe kids are involved.
Geographical.
But I'm sorry, Anderson County.
That's okay. It's about
Sorry.
So if somebody comes in from Kingston, you won't turn them away, obviously, but you'll refer them, but they're not within your grant stats or whatever.
Yeah, and that is, we won't turn anyone away, and we have worked actively to make sure we know what every other surrounding county provides, and then we get those things connected.
What's the closest family justice center to you?
Well, Knox has one, Knox County. They work, so when the Family Justice Center model started in around 2000 in California, it immediately, like, intimate partner murder went down, prosecution rates went up, and the Bureau of Justice saw that this was really working really well. And so they started funding others. And so Knox was in that second round of sort of federal funding where, like, let's see if this works somewhere else. And then it did. And so.
It just makes sense it would work somewhat.
Yeah, coordination and support.
Truthfully, having been involved in money and government for a long time, that's not a lot of money.
No, well,
for the results you're getting, that's a minor investment.
Well, and if
that's
you think about what the cost is for, investigating a murder, if there is an intimate partner murder, what all comes with that? That's $1 million enterprise right there. And
well, General Clark deserves a lot of credit for being innovative enough. I know he's done a lot. We've seen his spot on here.
Yep.
He does a lot to keep that stuff working. He does an outstanding job. How would you say that 3/4 of your people that you help are referred by the court system?
I would say largely our referrals are coming from law enforcement.
Same thing to me.
And I would also say that.
I did say court system. You're
no,
right.
that's well, and I'm thinking too that a lot of times the clerk's office, when someone goes for an OP or has questions, they're also getting referrals. We left resource cards, and they know that we help with OPs. So if someone needs an order of protection, they'll tell them, we'll just go to the FJC and they can.
So if you come out to my house and I got hit over the head with a pipe or something, and I'm going to arrest him for domestic violence in an argument, and that person takes him to jail, whoever's calling on the case. Now, my understanding is if there's a victim that's a woman, that woman police officer will be present. But, I don't know the rules of that. But bottom line is somebody in that law enforcement is going to give them an FJP card. See, I'm learning the acronyms. That's good. FJP card, and tell them, look, if you need help, go see these people. Mm-hmm. So you have Oak Ridge Police, Knox County, Anderson County.
Yeah, we did a roll call for ORPD. We talked to every patrol officer. I brought Red Bulls and water to the sheriff's department and stood in the parking garage and was like, hey, not grant funded. I bought those just to make sure we know that that's that way.
That's
and some snacks work. And just said, hey, I've got some resource cards. If you get something hard, just tell them to come to us. And that's.
Do they have a specific officer in Oak Ridge assigned to these types of services?
We have several, I would say, liaisons who I can reach out to Monday through Friday and ask questions. All of our chiefs have been amazing as far as connecting us, but really what we do is, depending on where you're coming from, if you want to report, I will call dispatch and say, hey, it's Melissa at the FJC. Can you send an officer down? And it's as soon as it can be. Yeah, and they come right
So
down.
some people that file reports with the police come through you. They actually meet with you first?
Yes, sometimes they'll come in and say, this happened, we don't really know what to do. And we'll say, well, you have some options. You can file a police report.
And it's terribly hard, I would think, because you can break families up with this stuff. The weight on you guys' shoulders is heavy. Is she telling the truth? Is he telling the truth? Do you think that, what do you do? You have to weigh on the side of the victim.
We approach it as though anyone coming to us is telling the truth, and it's
coming to you as a qualifier, though. I
do think
more positive, truthful people will come to you than they would just to the police. If they're taking the time to come and expose their life to you, don't you think that's kind of a commitment?
I think it's yes, and I think it is really intimidating and scary. And so when someone walks through the door, I think they've probably really given it a lot of thought, or they've reached a point where they don't think they can go forward anymore. Right. Yeah, for sure.
When there's when there's measurable violence, it's not as hard. People go to the police, they have police reports, they get victim coordinators appointed. But when it's a borderline thing and you haven't called the police, but you're worried about it and you need some help, that's where you guys come in.
Yeah. Well, and there is very, very, terrible violence that's also happening where they're not calling. And that's where I've had clients say, he killed my dog and said he'd kill the kids. And so I've never said anything. Because I saw what he did to the dog. Like, what if he did do that to the kids? And so you learn how to, respond to.
That's inside the house. Somebody from a family member says that stuff.
Yeah, well, that's what we've had. We've had clients say, that
would last about 1 second with me. And I'm just saying that if I even heard a neighbor say that to his wife or husband or whatever it was, the girl, whoever said it, that would have to be reported quickly.
Yes, well, but that's what I'm saying is they don't report that, and then when they finally do come into the FJC, they'll say something like, I've never come forward. He's been doing this for 10 years, but he has the ATM cards, he has the car. And that's where that example of he hurt the dog, he's killed the dog. I just was terrified to leave, and that all makes sense to me.
And that's by the thousands.
And that is very.
I would say there's probably you would guess there's dozens of families in Anderson County under that kind of situation.
I mean, I would say
not killed the dog necessarily, but got all the cards, maintains control, shows, exhibits violence and threats.
Yeah. I think it's incredibly common. Statistics say 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will be a victim of intimate partner violence in some way, and that's actual physical. That doesn't, count the control type issues.
Well,
and it may be one time versus that's not necessarily 1 in 4 long-term violent relationships.
We studied in the 70s, violence is addictive, in my opinion. If you'll grab somebody or you'll hit somebody, we know that from murder. Once you kill somebody, you're more likely to kill again. If you hit somebody, now you're across the threshold, you're more likely to hit them again. That's why it needs to be reported very quickly, I think, to get that person help too.
Yeah, well, and so this is part of why the FJC came about too. It is 100%. We want to serve victims, but also you want to hold perpetrators accountable, and one way that happens is more likely to happen is with coordination. So when a victim feels supported, when they know that they will have help with housing, when they know that they can get a job, when they know that they'll have someone sitting by them in court when they do testify, all of those things make them more likely to prosecute, and then we as a society in our courts hold them accountable. Someone goes to jail, and an example I love to give is Scott County has a family justice center.
Yes, they do.
Before they opened, 20% of victims would testify in court in cases. 1 year after opening, because they were so coordinated, 80% of victims were testifying. And they had perpetrators who said, they have like a quote that she said was, one perpetrator said, "I'm not hitting anyone in Scott County because I know that I'm going to jail." And so they have proven through this coordination and through word of mouth that when you are doing something and you're coming forward to the FJC and you're getting all those services, everyone is working together. And I can tell you, I was there on a Friday afternoon. Someone came in for an order of protection. The judge who reviews them had been mowing. He came in sweaty with grass in his hair on Friday afternoon, read through it. He did not grant it, but when that call came through, he drove in, read through it, and said, well, this doesn't meet the qualifications. But that's the kind of coordination that gets things done.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take our final break here in about 30 seconds. I want you to give, or 10 seconds or whatever, Brad. I want you to give me a one-word answer. I know you're going to want to explain, but I need a one-word answer. Are rural cultures or suburban cultures, since we don't have a lot of urban here, suburban cultures or rural cultures more likely to have abusive societies? Can you say? Is Scott County more likely to be violent than Oak Ridge? Is Clinton less likely to be than Campbell County? You got a feel for it?
One word, I would say that it's easier to hide it.
Go ahead.
It's easier to hide it, I think.
You think it's pretty consistent? You think it's easier to hide it where? In
a rural area. I do think when you can't hear someone hit against that wall in your apartment building, or someone can call it in, I think, and I don't think it's, I'm not going to say I think it's more prevalent, I think it's easier maybe to hide.
Brad, let's take a break. Last break. Thank you guys for watching.
Always ready, always there. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information, like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form, cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. Report the call to our law enforcement arm, the Office of the Inspector General, at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see.
D-E-P-R.
Mental illness doesn't show up on a scale. Bipolar? Sorting out a mental health concern takes professional diagnosis and treatment.
Anxiety. I thought so.
If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Story. We're back. Melissa's going to finish up, and we're going to talk one more time. And I want to remind you, the Family Justice Center serves Anderson County is in Jackson Square. For those of you that are lifetime Oak Ridgers, it's in the old library. It's across from the old Ken's Barbershop and Jimmy Norman's law offices, right up on the hill with the new, I was going to say graffiti, but it's not graffiti. What do you call it? That would be bad, right?
It's a lovely mural.
Mural.
Yeah.
Mural on the back of the building. It's beautiful. You stand on the tennis court, you can see the mural. It's there, from Jackson Square, on the same road with Dean's and in between the tennis courts and Jackson Square. So we've talked about all these things you're doing, and you're getting a lot done with 3 people. That's fabulous. How many cases do you have? A feel for how many cases?
FJC staff is 3, but 24 partner agencies. So we are well supported by all of our partners. Yeah.
Do you do payroll, fill out all the paper? Do you have to do everything?
Well, no,
grant
thank
reports?
God, no. Well, I do grant reports. The fiscal side is managed depending on the grant through either the DA's conference for the state of Tennessee or Anderson County government. So the VOCA grant is administered through Anderson County government.
And who handles that? Just goes through payroll. Do you turn payroll in? To Robbie? Does Robbie get your payroll?
Well, not for me, but for the 2 other staff members. Because I'm funded under one grant, they're funded under another grant.
So you get your money from the grant people, okay.
But everyone on our staff is grant funded. So the county's not paying for anything.
It goes into a revenue item, and then Robbie pays out the salaries based on that.
That's how that goes.
I got you. Were you closed Monday?
No.
Okay, good.
I'm glad we weren't. We had 2 clients. And you'd asked the number for our first quarter, we had 43 clients.
Wow. What's the average time spent on a client?
I would say a minimum of an hour. Sometimes 2.
But that's interaction. I mean total case file.
It would really depend. Sometimes someone just wants help with an order of protection and then maybe a referral to legal aid.
Hour or 2,
yeah. And then sometimes I had one client who came 16 times, and one day I ended up actually, I went to roll call and I saw her parked in the parking lot of ORPD. She was homeless, and she followed me over. I bought her breakfast, and then she spent the whole day with us, and she really just was overwhelmed, and so we kind of went through the steps of everything.
Too.
Yeah, of course. So safe space for other, in ways you wouldn't have imagined when we first opened.
Here comes another one-word answer that you did only about 112 last time.
It's really bad at
this. This is a percentage, that question.
Okay.
Are you ready? You sure? Okay. So the question is, of everybody that comes in, victims or perpetrators, what percentage are substance abuse related?
I don't think, this is not one word, I would say...
What's your guess?
That substance abuse,
alcohol,
or misuse,
drugs,
yes, can make a situation worse, but we always want to make sure that we say that domestic violence is not caused by these things, by substance use or alcohol, but it can make it worse.
I mean, I think I agree that there are underlying personality disorders, underlying emotional stress, other things that cause it. But these are triggers. They're all triggers.
I think that they can absolutely make it worse, and I think that but I will say there are many, many people who drink all the time or abuse substances, and they don't hit their coworkers, they don't hit their friends, they do these things
I'm not
in
blaming
the privacy
you
of
on
their
that.
home.
I got you.
But
I'm
I
not giving
do
them out.
think, that it absolutely can make
Well, first of all, let's
the
talk about
situation far
substance
worse.
abuse, something we both know about. Okay.
Yes.
Both trained it. So the bottom line is substance abuse is just medication, self-medicating, okay? For most people.
Yes.
For most people, it's self-medication. They're winding down at the best possible thing. Number two, they're erasing pain with the other side of it.
Sure.
So I'm okay. So they're medicating. But if you've got suppressed anger, resentment, you're using some kind of substance abuse to deal with that, and that's causing you to be more violent in a lot of ways.
That can.
But my collateral issue, well, let me rephrase it. You're trying to define what the cause of the disorder is, and that's not my question.
Okay.
My question is, how many people use triggers for their, I'm going to put it in your words, underlying disorders that are already there, but there's some kind of trigger before an incident happens?
So I couldn't give you that number. I
going
can say
75.
we don't serve perpetrators. So when the victim comes in.
But they can identify them. They can say they were drinking, they were using
Yeah,
drugs.
so yeah, and I just was mostly just clarifying. So if
Okay.
a victim comes in, I will say, I could not give you a number. I would guess when we hear about it, it would be 25. We don't really hear that very often. It's usually just in the storytelling, and part of this may be because when we do our intake, we don't hear all of the stories sometimes
Okay,
because
that's
we
fair.
have an advocate come in. So sometimes they dig in deeper than we do as FJC
So,
staff.
but you really get people to say, Bob was reading the paper and he didn't like the national news, so he threw a brick at me? I mean, does that really happen, sober people?
Well, really, what we hear is when he came home last night, he did this, and this,
Something
and
happened
we'll
at work.
say, okay, well, and that does sometimes come up. We make DCS referrals all the time. So the call this morning, to DCS that we made for a client, she said, yeah, he was abusing prescription drugs,
Okay.
and he was just angry,
Not himself.
and then this thing happened, and that made a whole series of other things happen, and so.
It's so sad. It's just really sad. I mean, that's my word for it. Children are sad, are sadder or the most depressing situations because kids get, we look at the children today and somebody will say to me, look at those kids, they're this, they're this, they're this, and I'll say, they never had a chance. There's too many collateral issues. Some rise above it. We see the stories every day, and some fall off tragically.
Yeah.
But most just come through with a lot of societal disorders and stuff. It's so sad.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the big things that the state's focusing on is adverse childhood experiences and the things that kids see and experience. Yeah, they shape their brain and how it develops, and that causes problems down the
good luck
line.
with that when they're on video games 12 hours a day. It's
That
just
doesn't help. Yeah.
no. And my son is a I won't say addicted, but my son, if he doesn't play for a couple of days, he gets irritable. He loves, the techno world is very important to him. He loves to play 3-4 hours a day, after homework or whatever. That's his world. He's very quiet and shy. So I guess and he hates me talking about anything on TV, but he's a great kid, great grades, wonderful personality, but he's very quiet and he's introverted and he likes video games, which makes makes it hard for us to define what it is, et cetera, et cetera. And you have children.
I do. Almost 16-year-old and almost 13-year-old, boy and girl.
And are they going to be historians or are they going to be?
No, they do not love history. They do not want lessons from their mother, try as I might. I think my son at this moment is interested in architecture.
Good for him. That's a good thing.
My daughter likes all things slime and science, but is also really artistic. So.
But you know what? That's two A's right there. That's two winning attitudes. And they may or may, we pray for them. I feel good. But, some kids just don't have anything to plug into. They just, we wouldn't have all this when I was young.
Yeah.
In the 60s and 70s, we you went out and found a ball or you made something or, I have a toy chest of toys from when I was real little. And when all my kids were, they just loved the mechanical things. Not the video things, but it was so unique to them. So I wish we'd have more of that. But we're getting behind. We diverted a lot because you're so interesting. But I wish you the best. How can we help you?
I would just say getting the word out. If you know somebody who needs a service, send them down to
you do me a favor?
Yes.
These people somewhere have a 30-second PSA. You know what I'm saying? Contact, like a commercial.
Yep.
You get that to me and we'll play that for you every show.
Okay.
Because we really want to help you. And I love your location, just because I'm from that area, but I love it and everything that's going on. You're doing a fantastic work. And once again, David continues to do good things.
He's awesome.
He is awesome. He's done a lot of good stuff.
Does a lot of good things for the county.
We'll do everything we can, and I really appreciate you. Even I mean, you've moved up so rapid since getting here from California. But
Well,
you got out for the earthquake.
I don't know.
You got out for the earthquake.
I did. Yeah.
Hey, everybody! Thank you again for watching. These are important shows.